Hi there, I'm Amy and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I was really inspired by the Reaper's Rewards events that's in The Sims 4 at the moment, and so I wanted to make a house for a sim that might live here, and then the idea was that sim would end up collecting all of the items from that event. The event's actually been really bugged for me, so I managed to do the first stage, but then the second one disappeared because I came back on a second day to finish that off and it just wasn't there anymore. And then when I was playtesting this build, which was in a different save to the one that I started the Reapers event on, it just wasn't even showing up for the second week either, so I haven't completed that. I did end up grabbing a few items from the gallery much later on in the build, just from people who have uploaded the Reapers event items, including the bike with the cowplant skull on it. So those are in the build, but if you did want to play in this at all, you can easily delete those and add in your own as you unlock them, but I didn't include every single item that you can unlock. Also, as usual, this build will be on the Sims 4 gallery just under my EA ID, which is AWayfaringFrog, so you can grab it there if you wanted to download it at all. I decided to build this in Copperdale, which is the world that came with the High School Years expansion pack, and it's just a 20 by 20 lot on Little Falls Nook, as you can see in the top left corner. So it's near to that area with all of the fairground rides. I really like Copperdale. I think it's a great world with lots of woodsy areas, which are the kinds of places that I like to build in a lot, so I did enjoy putting it here. My first ever YouTube video, in fact, that's on the channel, that was also built here. That was a very different kind of build though, but it was quite nice to come back here, since that was the last time I'd built on this. I also thought it would be fun to make this a haunted house, so using the paranormal stuff pack, I applied that lot trait onto it, so if you download it, it is set as a haunted residential house, but you could always change that if you didn't have paranormal. There would be a few items that would be missing as a result though, although I didn't use too many items, mostly just the hanging plant and then the seance table. So just on the exterior of the build, I did struggle a bit with designing this because I was using a reference picture that I couldn't work out how to do the back of it based on the reference picture, so I tried to do something a bit different with the tower from what I had on that picture, but it just wasn't working in the end, so I ended up changing the tower area. So I ended up removing the more pointed roof that's got the hexagonal shape to it and just put the one from the main build, so the more angled A-frame style. So that will change shortly. Because I wasn't really sure how to do this for a while as well, it does dramatically change in colour scheme. So originally I was going very stark with lots of black accents, but I just felt like it was too dark and I wasn't sure how to bring in colour if everything was black. So I ended up switching a lot of these base game doors that I'm just adding in to the ones from the University expansion pack. They have some white trim to them, so they worked really well with the base game windows. I just changed the swatch of the windows to be the black and white ones rather than these just completely black ones that you're seeing at the moment. I was thinking of using the university windows to go with the doors that I end up picking as well, but as always, the swatches just didn't align with one another, so they weren't really that usable in the end, so I just stuck with the base game ones. I'm actually really impressed with myself as well. Whilst this is not a limited pack build by any means, the number of packs that end up being in it aren't actually that many. I mean, there's about 2 pages worth on the gallery, but in comparison to what I normally do, I think that's quite successful. So hopefully it is downloadable for a few of you if you did want to grab that from the gallery. As always, if you did ever want to see me do a limited pack build or anything on the channel, just let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So at this stage, I've about finalized the exterior design, and I think it looks a lot nicer with the more angled roof rather than the more tower roof shape that I had earlier. A lot of the other accents to the house as well, they're from, or they will be from vampires. So the wallpaper is one of the bricks from vampires. And then I also did a lot of that trim around the edge. So the spandrels and the freezers, they're all from the vampires expansion pack. And then so are all of the columns. As for the roof trim, that's actually from the Lovestruck expansion pack. We've got a couple of those now, and I really like them. They add a lot more detail to a build, so it's great to have some more roof trims that aren't just plain straight lines, so I really enjoyed those. Oh, sorry, I'm actually wrong about the brick that I used. I think I ended up going with the one from Realm of Magic instead. It was the patio and flooring that I ended up using from the Vampires pack, but I did stick with this one that you can see from Realm of Magic. It added a bit of colour to the build, so I quite liked that. And I ended up changing the roof colour to kind of a reddish tone as well. Just again, it worked well when I changed all of the window assets to be more white rather than just jet black. And I think it looked really nice in the end and has a decent amount of colour. That's probably a weak point that I've got, where I just have this thing where I'm forever doing very neutral things. I try so much to bring in colour. And then when I do bring in colour, I'll probably just focus on that one colour. So it's almost like a not so berry build at that point, where all of the rooms and every asset in there is very themed around that one colour. So I tried to not do that in this build. But now, as I mentioned, I'm just switching out the doors and changing all of the window swatches to be more white, and I'll edit some of the trim and things as well so it better aligns with that change in colour. Also, while I am making this to be a haunted house, I wasn't going for kind of a run-down, spooky, hasn't been lived in for a while house. This one was meant to have been inhabited for a while, so it doesn't have any like cobwebs or cracks around the place. I think it ends up being quite nice on the interior. I do plan to do something more like that with the new expansion pack that's coming out, that Life and Death one, which we very recently, as of doing this voiceover, got the trailer for that. So I'm really excited for this one. It looks really cool. I like a lot of the gameplay. It seems like the kind of pack that is usable in pretty much anyone's save file. There's a lot of really specific packs out there. Like, if you don't really want to do anything with occults, then werewolves and spellcasters aren't really the packs for you. But I feel like things such as Growing Together, Seasons, they just mesh so well in everyday gameplay, and they really help enhance how you play. So I think this new expansion pack is gonna do that kind of thing as well, and I'm really excited for it. So I've already got some plans of what to do when that comes out, including building another haunted house, but a more rundown one. Also, quite a while ago, before I started a YouTube channel, I actually made a graveyard in the world of Henford-on-Bagley. I just used the generic lot trait to be able to do that, so I didn't have specific items that the game needed me to add in, say having a chess table for parks or a grill, which just didn't really fit for a graveyard kind of build. So I'm really excited to be able to create a new one using all of the new assets. I think that will be a really fun thing to do, so I'll be sure to have a go at that. And anything that I do build will end up on the channel. So be sure to subscribe if you aren't already, so you'll know when that comes out, which will be around when the expansion pack releases. Obviously, I'm a very small creator, so I do not have early access at all, but I'll do my best to get a video out soon once that does release, because I am planning to buy it pretty much the day it releases. I've just accepted that The Sims 4 own my wallet at this point. So at this stage, I've now updated the build, so it's got all of those white accents that I mentioned earlier, and I really think it helps make the build pop. And so at this stage, I'm just adding in some landscaping. I do jump around quite a lot while I'm landscaping, so I ended up cutting quite a bit out of it. And not only do I jump around, but I ended up not finishing it until once I completed the interior, just because I didn't want to do the terrain paint, and because I did this over a few days, I didn't want the terrain paint to have glitched out and disappeared on me when I come back to it. So I did just decide to do that last. And as a result, I didn't feel like finishing the garden when I was starting it. I did make sure to keep in some of the process though, so you can see the kinds of plants that I was going for. I picked quite a few from Horse Ranch, those low-lying plants. The colour of them I think just works really well in Copperdale from the surrounding areas that I could see. They weren't quite a vibrant green in Copperdale, it was more of a muted one, so I thought that worked nicely. I also made sure to add in the 2 new kits from, so that's the Storybook Nursery kit and then the Artist Studio kit. I really love both of those for very different reasons. So I end up having a little artist room in the kind of the attic area. It's very small, you can only access it by ladder. But I thought that would be quite useful because then your Sims can create items to give to the ghosts, since this is going to be a haunted house using the paranormal stuff pack. The ghosts often like it when you give them gifts, and generally they prefer handmade gifts. I did also add the Crystal Creations workbench in, so you could make jewellery as well. Whether or not you're going to give that to the ghosts, I guess would be up to you, but I thought it would be a nice extra skill building item to have. And then as for the Storybook Nursery kit, this style of build just felt too perfect to not include that, so I really wanted to make sure I had 2 bedrooms. As a result, it's a little bit squished, but I think it works in the end. It did take me a while to work out the floor plan as a result, so again, I didn't include that process because it really wasn't worth watching. It's another weakness of mine, I suppose. I really need to work on floor plans. I just end up struggling so much with where to put the stairs, so I guess practice makes perfect, but you'll have to let me know if you think that it ended up looking good in the end, or whether you think it could have been improved some way. So now I'm just working on the back garden area, and I wanted it to be quite structured. So I added in this little gazebo area, which I ended up putting the seance table in. I also added in lots of pots for plants that your Sims can use. I didn't end up putting anything in them when I was playtesting this because, again, due to the Reaper's Rewards event, you receive instruction to buy certain seeds and then plant certain flowers and things. So I left those open just for gameplay purposes, so you can add the plants in that you want while you're playing. This house doesn't actually end up being starter home price by any means. I do mean to have a go at doing a starter home soon. So for the new expansion pack, I was thinking of just setting myself a 20k budget and trying to do sort of a limited price build as a result. It's just something I've never done on the channel, but I keep wanting to, and I think it would be useful. I personally don't like moving my Sims into houses without actually earning the money first. I just find it more fun for gameplay if I have to earn it. But when I'm building, I just really enjoy using everything that I can and then filling in the rooms as much as I think looks nice. So as a result, things do end up getting expensive because I don't really pay attention to the price of them. It's more what they look like and do they fit the build. But I am planning to do a starter home using the new expansion pack, so do look out for that. Thinking of features that were announced from the new pack, I'm struggling to kind of pick my favourite. I really like the idea of doing sort of a Grim Reaper career and playing as a Grim Reaper. That sounds really fun to me. But otherwise, I think it's really cool the way that they've made actually having your Sims pass away mean more. I'm the kind of person who gets really attached to their Sims and I struggle to let them die, basically. So they end up becoming immortal or something. I think it will be a nice push from this pack to make me actually not do that this time and to play sort of a more realistic gameplay, I suppose, and have my Sims pass away naturally as they get older. Also for my personal save file, which I've been writing a little story on as I go just for fun. I've now got some ideas for a few of the Sims that I thought I shouldn't make these immortal, I should actually have them pass away. Onto the interior now. You'll see that I did show a little bit of the process of working out the floor plan, but it was very minimal. I did end up just switching where the back door was to allow a bit more space for the area because everything was really structured in a way that it was difficult to separate out the spaces. So that did move and I think it was better for it. For the upstairs, it really upsets me how I've had to put the doors on a one tile. I hate how they look, but it is realistic to be honest. But in The Sims, I just think it looks really bad, so I'd avoid it as much as possible. But I was struggling so much with this build, it just had to be done. So hopefully it doesn't bother you too much either. But you'll see that I have just moved the kitchen as well to be in this back little nook space. As I'm decorating the kitchen right now as well, I realised that I forgot to use the extraction hood above the not the fireplace, above the stove. I put this smaller cabinet above it to be able to fit one in and then just completely forgot to put it in there. So if you did download the build, you might want to add that in. I was really excited while I was preparing for it to use the new swatches. Since we got a big swatch update, including quite a few for those overhead extractors, but yeah, I just completely forgot to add it in. So that's a shame, but thankfully it's The Sims and it really doesn't matter. Also, I wish that we could customize accent colors a lot more, so it really bothered me that the faucet or tap color, it didn't come in gold, or it didn't come in the right gold to match these growing together items. So I ended up just going for the black kind of basin with a white faucet. At least that way it matched the cabinets a bit better. But that's another problem of mine. I just really struggle to use certain items when the accent colours don't quite match across the whole room. But honestly, I think all Simmers have this problem. It's the same with wood swatches. They never quite match one another. So that's a bit of a shame. But with how the Sims team seem to be bringing out a lot of swatch updates, hopefully that means there's a chance that it will be updated in the future, which would be really nice. I feel like every time I build in The Sims, I'll be really happy about a new pack or a swatch update and then play around with the items and then think, oh, you know what, I still need more colours. I don't know if I'm just getting more and more picky where, okay, great, we've got more curtain colours, but how about we get the curtain railing to be a different colour so I can have gold accents or silver accents when I want them. So I don't know if that's just me being picky or if we do just need more swatches, but there's quite a few things still that I'd love to see updates on. So hopefully they look at those in the future, but at least we got some improvements for now. Also, one thing that I really just have to get off my chest in terms of swatches, I feel like every time they do new items lately, they've been adding in more neutral swatches. So there's a white variant and a black variant. Fantastic. I love it. However, I feel like for the black variant, and I especially find this with beds, they make everything black. The wood is black if it's got a wooden frame. The pillows are black. The bed sheet's black. And then the duvet cover is black. Everything is just one colour. And then the white swatch just feels a bit more reasonable. There's usually an actual wood tone for the bed frame. Somehow it doesn't look quite as stark. Whereas with the black swatch, can I just have white pillows or a wooden frame to it? Just some more colour? It feels too monotone, and it really bothers me because sometimes I really want to use the black swatches. I think a great example of where this hasn't been done is this season's bed. That one's got a really great black swatch because it's not just completely one colour, but there's quite a few from Dream Home Decorator where the beds, whenever you pick the darkest swatch, it just becomes one colour. And I think it's a shame because it just doesn't look very dynamic or interesting, so I generally don't use those. I love that they add more neutral swatches in, but I just wish that they didn't make it so monotone and they treated it a bit more like, let's use the main colour and then add in a few accents, specifically a few neutral accents. It just looks too stylized to me. It doesn't become usable. It's no longer a neutral colour. It's a very stark swatch. So I don't generally use those. But you'll have to let me know if you agree or if you actually really love that all of the dark swatches are just one entire monotone colour. Maybe it's just me, who knows? Anyway, I just talked over most of the living room, but I ended up using a base game fireplace here. I really liked how it brought in the white from all of the window and door accents, and then I just used this little side table from Laundry Day to pop the TV on. The sofa and chair are both from Cottage Living. I think they work really well. They kind of pick out the colours from the rug. Whilst the sofa doesn't quite match the rug, I think it's similar enough that it looks okay still, and I really liked how colourful it was. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm quite bad for using just like if I pick a green colour scheme, everything will be green. Not like those beds I mentioned though. There will still be accents of wood and a few neutral colours throughout. In this room, I really wanted to try and make it colourful. And then above the fireplace, I tried to do a bit of a gallery wall. I attempted to do this myself for a bit until I remembered that Paranormal actually does have its own little gallery wall, so I think that ended up looking a lot better. I did cut out a lot of me playing around with that. It looked like a very quick decision, but honestly, I was building that gallery wall for so long, and then I thought, wait, I can just use this item. So I did cut a lot of that out as a result. But I think it looks quite good. It fills up that wall decently well. And then the bathrooms that I do, I ended up cutting out the upstairs bathroom, which is the one with the shower and bathtub. I just used the base game one with the curtain in there. Otherwise, pretty much everything else was the same. But as this build was getting quite long already, or rather the video was getting quite long already, I didn't want to include that in since it felt very repetitive. And honestly, it was kind of uncomfortable to watch back because due to the fact that everything was kind of the same assets as in this downstairs toilet area, I just kept flipping back and forth between the two rooms. So it was very jarring to watch. So I cut that out of the build. You can see it in the screenshots at the end of the video, but because it's such a small room, I kind of struggled to get some nice screenshots. So they're average, but they do the job. They show you what's in the room. There were a few other issues I had with the camera while building this as well. It just kept jumping around. So I ended up having to cut a few sections out just due to that because I sort of go up to the next level and then try and pan across the room to decorate the wall, and because I needed walls up to be able to put artwork and things on there. The camera just like bounced around. It was so infuriating. So I did cut that out, but I think I managed to keep in most of what was going on. I think the nursery and the attic were the worst for that for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Speaking of glitches and issues as well, you might actually be able to see it right now. The frieze that's on the outside of the building kept changing to black, but just on the area where I had the nursery, or rather the hallway. I have no idea why, and it didn't like being changed back to white. Every time I tried to use the eyedropper tool to the white frieze nearby and then place it back on there, it hated it. It just didn't apply at all. So I had to just delete it and restart. So again, I cut that out of the video, but I did it at the end. So even though it's black at the moment, it does change back to white. Decorating the hallway space didn't take too long. I did move it around after what I initially did. So you'll notice again, I did cut a bit of that out and just switched to where I ended up settling on a design idea. But I left in a few bits of furniture that I added in. Originally, I was thinking I might add a desk up there, but in the end, I just decided there wasn't really enough room due to the doorways that were around it. So I just put this little side table. And then I figured if you wanted to have a computer in this house, which there currently isn't, you could maybe just buy one, like a laptop, and just put it on the dining table downstairs instead of having a dedicated desk space. So there's always that option, but I didn't include one in the actual build. So you would need to add that in if you did download it. And then onto the master bedroom, I ended up using this base game bed, which is an unlockable from the artist career. So you would need to use cheats if your sim isn't in that career, but I really love it. I wanted to use it recently in my industrial artist build, but because it's not a very industrial item, it didn't end up making the cut. So I'm happy I got to use it in here. I also used a few accents from the Parenthood game pack, and then again from the Storybook Nursery kit. And that armchair is actually from the Lovestruck expansion pack. I thought the yellow worked quite nicely with the bed. Although, quite funnily, I recently watched one of Lil Simsy's latest videos, and she pulled this chair out and said how much she hates it. So I thought it was quite cute, but she didn't really like the colour. So that hurt a little bit, but I like it. And I think it worked well with the room. And it's not really a piece that I've used before. It's still a very new item, so it's not surprising I haven't used it before. But I thought the colours looked nice in here, and it brought in another wood tone. Again, whilst I didn't want too many different wood tones, I thought this room was getting a bit too pale with all of the pale wood swatches, so I thought it added a bit of something different, and it does match the floor quite nicely. If you are still watching the video, by the way, be sure to hit that like button. It would really be appreciated. And if you've got any favourite things from the new expansion pack that you're excited for, be sure to let me know. I'm so excited for it, and I'd honestly just love to have a chat about all of the new stuff that's coming in it. So just let me know what you think. It looks really fleshed out in comparison to other expansion packs, just from the trailer, so it's not the best thing to base that off, but I'm pleasantly surprised by what seems to be included. And I absolutely love corvids, so the fact that they're bringing crows into it is really exciting to me. Anyway, we're now decorating the nursery, and I wanted to use these more blue swatches. I thought they worked quite well with the general decorations that I had in the rest of the house, so they worked nicely in here. I did also include one of the big stuffies from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack. I just grabbed the big dog plush from there so that the infant, eventually when they become a toddler, has something to play with. I don't think infants can play with those at this stage, but it's there for when they get older at least. I did also include a pet bowl downstairs. I originally envisioned there being a cat in this house just because personally I'm much more of a cat person than a dog person. I do love dogs too, but there's just something about cats that really have my heart a lot more. The only thing is I forgot to add a litter box or any kind of a litter tray. So you'd need to add that in if you wanted to have a cat. Otherwise, it's more of a dog home. There isn't a bed for an animal in here. I did just add the food bowl, but I figured they've got the sofa to sleep on, so it's not like they don't have a nice comfy space to sit. Just an extra gameplay thing that I thought would be nice to include in here. And then going upstairs into the attic, which you have to access via a ladder. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I just used a few skill building items in here. I didn't end up using the new easel just because I thought this one from base game, which is another career unlock, it just felt a bit skinnier and fit into the corner a lot nicer so that I could add a few more decoration pieces around it. And then the Crystal Creations workbench. Again, the idea was that because this is a haunted house, your Sims have plenty of things to do to help make items for the ghosts. I haven't actually played that much with that haunted house feature. I don't know why. It's really fun, but I think it also gets a bit much because your Sims just terrified all the time and then they don't sleep. So as a result, I don't think I've really played that much with it, but I believe they become happier and leave you alone more if you give them gifts. I just haven't done that. So maybe I should try again. And then it won't be so difficult to play when I'm trying to get my Sim to go to sleep and they just won't because they're so stressed. Which I feel that, poor Sims, it must be a nightmare well, a literal nightmare if you've got ghosts screaming at you. Anyway, now that we're finished with the interior, as I mentioned earlier, we're now jumping back outside to finish off the garden space and a bit of the landscaping. I did originally forget to put a mailbox in, but thankfully, because this was day 2 of me building this, the game had my back and made sure to spawn one in just to remind me. So I added the one from base game, which is the one that's more in Willow Creek, I think. Again, it just had more of a Victorian vibe to it than the standard pole with a little box on top. I thought this one looked a lot more structured and nice. And then I added in the bike from the Reaper's Reward pack just the Reaper's Rewards event, as I mentioned. And then there was a book that helps you build several skills at once. So I popped that into the living room. And then I included a few of these little plushies. I really love those plushies. They're such cute, tiny collectible items. So I enjoyed adding those in. I think this weekend I'm going to try and sort out my games so that I can actually continue the event myself. To unlock the rest of them because I've only got the first week's worth of stuff and even then I didn't manage to complete it. I think there's just a couple of skill books, so I wasn't too worried about those since they were base game anyway. In terms of final touches for the build, I just added in a bit of lighting so it wasn't so dark at night, and then I end up including some ivy running up the walls just from the vampires pack, so the window situation where I had to scoot them around doesn't look quite so weird. We are actually coming to the end of the speed build portion of the video, so if you did enjoy it, please be sure to hit that like button. It really does help the channel. And subscribe if you haven't already, and enable notifications so you'll know when I next upload a video. I've already got a few plans in the making, as I mentioned, just around the new expansion pack, so once that does come out, I'll absolutely be releasing a few videos on that. As I mentioned again earlier, I already want to do a starter home, something that I haven't done on the channel yet, and I think it would be really fun. So definitely tune in for that. And as always, let me know in the comments below of any builds you'd love to see on the channel. I'd really like to hear your thoughts. And what's your favourite feature in the new expansion pack that's coming out? Thanks so much for watching, and I really hope you have a great rest of your day.